Hello and welcome to the Plague 90% Speedrun Commentated. Alright, so starting off, you have planes, and this is where the stage is actually pretty hard for the very first stage. Actually, it has a couple of tricky parts that a lot of other stages don't. Usually most stages have like pretty tall ceilings, but this stage has some low ceilings in some parts, which makes some movement pretty tricky. Now as Plague Knight, of course, you move really dang fast compared to pretty much any other character right off the bat. So you can hold charge here, and then that's called a burst, is when you hold the attack button and then you release. And when you burst, you sort of go flying in the air. And the main thing you want to do as Plague Knight is just keep yourself in the air as much as possible. And also Plague Knight does have a double jump, which he can actually chain with bursts in order to actually maintain the speed you get from the burst itself. I'll explain a little bit more about the basic movement tech, but right here is a little neat trick. That's a screen wrap, basically. You're tricking the game into like triggering a screen that it's not supposed to by sort of going to a screen transition at a really awkward angle, and then you sort of warp there where you're not supposed to. Alright, so this is... I think I got a good Black Knight on this. Oh, never mind. Yeah, this boss fight is unfortunately very, very random. It used to not be this way. In a prior patch of this game, the first Black Knight fight was actually fairly set. There was a really consistent setup to it. But they changed the way the screen transition works, and you can't really burst while the screen is loaded, so you basically have to start the fight from... Oh, sorry, that's not true. You can actually still burst while you have the boss screen loaded, except it's frame perfect now, which is very hard to nail. Alright, so more on like basic movement. So yeah, like I said before, like you want to keep yourself in the air as much as possible. And yeah, you can do that by bursting and then double jumping like as much as possible. And then also worth noting is that your double jump refreshes like every time you land, basically, which is pretty standard with, you know, games with double jumps. So I am gonna have like a bunch of music on shuffle just so you don't hear the original audio on this run. So it's gonna be a little bit weird, but it's fine. Don't worry about it. So yeah, Pride More Keep. Like you see here, like this is what I was kind of talking about earlier in Planes, although I guess it's more applicable to Pride More. Low ceilings are kind of weird to get a hold of and to move fast in, because you still want to keep yourself in the air, so like the window for you to actually double jump and still keep your burst momentum is actually a little bit tricky. I am playing this through VLC, and sometimes it like bugs out like that. I don't really know why that happens, but yeah. So you'll see Plague Knight does have different collectibles than other characters do. So you'll see me collecting some green coins. Sometimes it looks like I'm kind of going out of my way to collect green coins or whatever, but that's not the case. They're just kind of in my way. I don't do anything with green coins in this run. Routing wise, I basically only pick up one item in one of the stages. So yeah, this is King Knight. He's mostly the same every single time. You can do this thing in the corner where you just throw bombs at the wall and then you'll hit him a bunch of times. Oh, I actually missed one hit there. Lost. I think that loses like 2 seconds or something. Not a big deal though. I think, if I remember correctly, you can kill him after he does like 2 jumps after doing his ground slime. That's the earliest you can kill him at. So Plague, compared to like another character like Shovel Knight, doesn't have like the dream sequences in between stages. It just goes back to the what's it called? I think it's called the Potionarium. So like yeah, at the end of every stage you go back to the Potionarium, and it's actually a little bit tricky because it may not seem like it. You can actually save like quite a bit of time if you menu properly in the Potionarium, because you can actually. Here's another really cool thing I like about Burst that I think is a lot different from pretty much every other game that I can think of, is that you can pretty much charge a burst whenever you want to in this game. You can do it during screen transitions, which is really nice because it means as long as you reach a screen transition, you basically get a free burst into the next room, which makes things a lot faster than they would be otherwise. And you can, like I said before, you can like burst pretty much any time, so you can actually burst while you're menuing, while you're in the Potionarium. And so you have to like hold a button down and then like menu. It's a little bit awkward, but it's a very good time save all across the run if you like are actually good at menuing and holding a button at the same time. But yeah, Lich Yard is not too difficult. These frogs you see jumping around here are they're random, but for Plague Knight, it's not really a huge deal because you can pretty much like go over them most of the time, and then even if one gets in your way, you can do a damage boost or something, and then not really lose all that much time. Alright, so this is Spectre Knight. While he's in the air like this, he will sort of get knocked back in the opposite direction he's facing. His first teleport after his scythe throw is always the opposite side. This second one is random, so right here I got bad luck, but for Plague Knight it's not too bad, I think. If I remember correctly. I think if you get a bad pattern with Shovel Knight, you lose like, I think it's like 3 or 4 seconds. I think with Plague Knight it's like, I think it's about the same actually. Might be a little bit less, but it's not really a big deal if it gives you a bad pattern or not. It can be a little bit awkward to adjust to it though, since doing the backup kill with a bad teleport is a lot harder than doing the one where you can actually get a good teleport. So right now I just got a health upgrade, and that's something that is... you can't really avoid as Plague Knight. You'll always get like a health upgrade after you unlock a new world like I just did. And you can also press start to skip the potion drinking animation. You can actually press start to skip some animations in this game that are mostly in hubs, etc. Alright, so this is Explodatorium. This stage is very, very tricky because the whole stage is on a cycle, pretty much. What I mean by that is that in this room there's these pots that go up and down, and that starts as soon as the stage is loaded, so I'm looking for a very specific actually, really the most important part for Explodatorium is making sure you nail like the first couple rooms with the pots. There is one very last pot at the end of the stage which can screw you if you're on a bad cycle, but usually it's not a problem. Like the window for it actually making you lose time is really small actually, so if you actually get screwed by that, you're actually pretty unlucky. Oh yeah, that was Alchemeister. You can't really kill him before he transforms. At least I haven't found a way to. I'm pretty sure it's impossible, unless you might be able to do it with like a different bomb loadout or not. Oh yeah, one thing worth mentioning about basic movement as well is that when you throw a bomb in the air, you actually hang in the air and sort of slow down your momentum. And you actually gain a little teeny tiny bit of height as well when you throw a bomb, which is something that is worth keeping in mind. Oh right, this is important. Okay, so I enter this fight with 2 health because if you have less than 2 health when fighting Shovel Knight, he cannot use Phase Locket, which makes him invincible. Wait, was that Ichor Skip? I think it was. Oh yeah, I remember. I did get Ichor Skip in this run. So Ichor Skip is an item that Shovel Knight can use, and it makes him heal after he's lost. Oh my goodness, I can't believe I'm blanking out on this. I think it's... yeah, he uses a healing item after he's lost 3 circles of health. But sometimes he'll use Warhorn when, like, right before losing, or like he'll use Warhorn right before going through that threshold. So like he won't use the I4 skip, you'll skip it entirely, which actually saves, I think it's like 5 seconds. It might be a little bit more actually. Alright, but yeah, this is Iron Whale now. Water in this stage is pretty interesting from Plague Knight. It doesn't really feel... horizontally, it doesn't really affect your speed, but vertically, you do, your vertical speed is slower, which is kind of interesting when going into this room. That room is really difficult to nail down like that. You have to sort of, you have to wiggle left and right at some point in that room to sort of sneak through and like cut a corner and then use a burst to kill some of the tentacles there. Very difficult room. Probably one of the hardest rooms in this game to nail as fast as possible. Alright, so this is our boy, 420 Fish, or as some people... or actually his real name is Teethalon, I believe, but no one calls him that because it's, I guess, not cool, but people call him 420 Fish because he is really hard to deal with if he actually floats very high in the air. He kind of moves around randomly, so he can kind of put you in a bad spot. Actually, that kill was alright. Right there, I killed him from the front, which is a little bit annoying because then you're put in a position where he can actually hit you with his barf fishes. I don't even know what to call them. But you can actually stand behind them and throw bombs at him from like behind his chest, but then I think you lose a little bit of time because then you don't hit the screen transition as fast as possible since you're a little bit far away after you kill him. So something I haven't really talked about yet. Actually, I'll explain Treasure Knight first. So let's see if I got a good pan in here. Oh yeah, you want to hit him with a burst at some point so that he sort of manips. You manip him to sort of back into the corner. That was a pretty good fight. Usually, you can kill him before he activates the, I don't know what you would call it, the chest cyclone. Or actually, I think you can kill him right after he throws the chests. Actually, I haven't looked at this run in a very long time, so I'm a little bit rusty on like the specifics of how everything works. But yeah, what was I talking about? Yeah, health tonics. Health tonics are a thing in this game, so they increase your maximum health by 1 for every one you take, and it heals you by 1. And if you die, you lose that 1 max health gain from the health tonic. Right here I have 2, I believe. So normally I would use one of those if, say, I was a little bit short on health for the Shovel Knight fight. Say if I took like an extra hit or something. But I will be fighting Shovel Knight later on in the boss rush again, so I believe I did use at least 1 tonic in that fight, which is pretty nice backup to have if you don't have the correct amount of health for that fight. So right there I was able to burst through that flame slime because another property that burst has is that you're actually invincible for, I want to say, like half a second after you burst. I think it's a little bit less than that, but it's I think that's accurate. It's somewhere around there anyway. Also, something very important that I haven't mentioned yet, because there's a lot of mechanics this character has, is that damage boosting for this character is actually really, really important in order to do some rooms properly. Like you saw in the last room, I had to damage boost off that mole minion in order to actually get through him without killing him. Alright, so this is Mole Knight. You just kind of hop in the air here and try to get 2 bombs every time he dives, and then when he reaches the corner, you just kind of go above him and just unleash everything. So thus far I have not used any items. I'm only using my basic loadout. And the reason for that is because going out of your way for money or any other items is really slow, because in order to get some of the items, you have to they are at an inflated price than, say for an example, for Shovel Knight. I believe you have to pay like double the price if you just go into a room with Chester and buy it from him. But you can get them for free if you get the relic in every stage and then trade that relic to Chester. But getting the relics in every stage is very time consuming, so you don't really get them in this run. Except for one that you get in this stage. You don't get the relic, but you just buy the item. It's a very expensive item though. I believe it's, if memory serves, it's 9,000 gold. And it's called the Staff of Striking. Which is a very useful item, as you will see on the Propeller Knight boss. So some of these rooms are pretty tricky because of, again, the weird angles and low ceilings. So these green propeller enemies, people call them Jawas because they look like Jawas, I guess. Although I believe canonically they're called green meanies, which is, I suppose that's a name. I don't think it's a particularly great name, but there you go. There's some hot lore for you. Alright, so here right here I'm entering the Staff of Striking room. And this guy's like, yo, give me $9,000, which is a lot. You see, I spent pretty much all of my gold on that. But yeah, another thing I wanted to talk about is just the route in general. So the route for this run is actually incredibly simple. You don't go out of your way at all for gold. You basically just get all of the gold you need from gold you collect on the way and gold you get from bosses. And even then, at the very end, when you do get every upgrade that you want, you still have a bunch of cash. And part of the reason as to why you only spend not very much money is that the Staff of Striking is just by far and away the best damaging item that Plague Knight can get. And it's also one of the fastest ones that you can get. Like if you go back and see, like you can get into that room like very fast. It only takes a couple seconds, and the time you save from it is quite substantial because it allows you to kill bosses a lot faster. But I will also be picking up magic upgrades as well. These rooms can be a little bit scary, but whatever. It's alright. Alright, so here is Propeller Knight, and you'll see why Staff of Striking is so good. You can basically just float in the air right next to him and still do damage to him like really, really fast. The Staff of Striking is a super fast weapon. Oh wow, actually... Wow, okay, I don't remember me doing this. Oh wow, I completely beefed up this fight. I forgot this happened. Never mind, you're not gonna see anything. You're not gonna see how effective the Staff of Striking is on this boss, unfortunately. But yeah, I lost about, I want to say... That bad fight cost me about 8 seconds or something, which is pretty bad actually. I was fairly mad during this run actually. It's still a good run, but there was a lot of weird things that happened. I believe this fight was very good. Basically all of the random fights, or the most random dependent fights, I got pretty well. Oh yeah, I did get the stun lock. So this stun lock is super hard to get. And, oh wait, I lost it actually. Dude, this run isn't good. What am I doing? Nah, this run's still good, but there's some pretty major mistakes like this one that just cost a huge amount of time. Man, that's rough. Yeah, this boss fight unfortunately is one of the most random. It's just really difficult to deal with. You can juggle him by using Staff of Striking and then throwing a bomb at him. But then he does have double the health that he has in plane, so even if you can loop him a little bit, it's still not enough for you to kill him too fast. Unless you get the stun lock. Like, if you look at the bottom right there, I still... even though that might have looked like an okay fight, I still lost like 10 seconds over like the best fight I could get, which is very substantial. Alright, so... yeah, this stage is actually pretty neat. There is a lot of really janky damage boosts that you can do to save a little bit of time here and there. But I like this stage very much. It's probably one of my favorites actually. The movement is it's like, it's smooth if you work for it. And you do have to work for it. Like this room, you have to have the exact momentum when you actually hit that Viking, or else you the damage boost will lead you straight down the pit actually, and you won't bounce like high enough and you'll die. So you have to like slow yourself down like at the correct time and then like turn on like right before hitting the enemy at like a weird time in order to actually do that damage boost correctly. And this room is really cool. Probably one of the coolest rooms in this game. It looks really scary, but it's actually not that bad if you commit to the strat and are fairly confident. So right there, that damage boost was intentional. If I'm doing a damage boost in the boss fight and it looks weird, it's probably intentional. And that's because, you know, sometimes in this game, this applies to other characters as well, but sometimes you do actually want to take damage from bosses because your positioning is much more favorable to doing damage if you position, or like get a boost from a damage, or from taking damage, like I did in that fight. Alright, so right here I do get 2 magic upgrades, which cost in total 10,500 gold, I believe. So yeah, even after getting that, I still have an extra 4,000, which is quite a lot. Right, so I haven't actually explained how Plague's magic works. It's fairly simple. His magic regenerates automatically after you haven't used magic for like a second or so, it starts regenerating. You basically never really have to worry about magic drops, which is pretty nice. I mean, oh yeah, so another thing that's really important in boss fights is that you don't actually want to run out of magic most of the time, because if you do run out of magic, you can't use magic until your magic bar is completely refilled. Alright, so this is the auto-scroller, which is a little bit weird, but it's a lot easier to deal as Plague Knight, because as opposed to someone like Shovel Knight that's pretty slow and doesn't really have a lot of air mobility. That auto-scroller is... it's a lot easier than it looks. Although I suppose it's not actually a real auto-scroller, because you can still move around and whatnot. Like the screen doesn't lock like in this screen. Alright, so for Tinker Knight, as Shovel Knight you can basically just one-shot Tinker Knight with a gear, but for Plague Knight, the fight is still really easy, but the way it's compensated for this character is that you just deal double damage to him. So he'll still die pretty much instantaneously. Like that. So this is probably one of the only boss fights that you can actually hit before the boss actually starts moving. I'm pretty sure you can pretty much hit any boss in this game right as soon as their health starts filling, so that's when you can actually hit them. And yeah, that was a boss, I don't know. He's not so difficult. Alright, so time for the last health upgrade and the last 3 stages, which are fairly tricky. The late game for this character is very, very pivotal, because it's, well, first of all, like, the first tower entrance has Black Knight 3 at the end, which is... it's a pretty hard fight. Probably, personally, I don't think that fight is as bad as Black Knight 2, because if you don't get the double bomb set up for Black Knight 2, you're pretty much losing at least 10 seconds. And that's a setup that's very hard to get. But for Black Knight 3, you can still get a decent fight, even if you don't get like an amazing bomb setup. New damage boost here. This part is kind of annoying, because you have to wait a bunch, unfortunately. And there's not much you can do about it. Oh, that was a little bit of a mistake there. Huh, okay. That was a weird mistake to make. I think what happened there is that... I think this happens with, I think, every other character as well, but if you switch directions with your character right before you take damage, I think it's like maybe a frame or 2 before, or even if it's, it might be frame perfect as well. It'll look like you're getting damage boosted towards the right, for example, but you're actually... like, you'll be facing the wrong direction that you get damage boosted in the, damage animation, which is really weird. It kind of feels bad because it feels like you've been robbed of a good damage boost. Alright, so yeah, this is Leg Knight 3. I think he teleported in this run, which is actually pretty bad. Yeah, he totally psyched me out, dude. That was incredibly unlucky. I actually hit him when he was about to charge his laser, and then he backed up and did it again, which is actually incredibly rare. It almost never happens. But yeah, that laser attack, I think wastes at least 5 seconds, probably even more. Ooh, and I didn't get the burst here at the end to the door. So, ideally when you end this fight you want to be all the way to the right here, because as you can see here, at the very end you have to walk all the way to the right for the stage. Excuse me. You need to walk all the way to the right for the stage to actually end. That's when I split as well, when the screen completely fades out. I don't actually know if that burst I did it on that jellyfish screen is actually the best way to go through that room, but it kind of feels like it is. This is a thing for all characters as well, but when you hit the ceiling, you start... It kind of feels like you accelerate downwards like a lot faster. So that's kind of why I burst into that ceiling, just so that I can actually like move down faster. Which seems counterintuitive because bursts like puts you upwards, but I think it's faster. So yeah, here's another auto-scroller. And I believe... Yes, okay, so... I am going to the boss rush, which means I'm going to fight every single boss, and Shovel Knight. Which is not great because you basically have to do the entire boss rush without collecting health, so that when you do get to Shovel Knight, you have 2 health or less. Which is very, very difficult to set up because you don't really know like how well you're gonna do in all the bosses beforehand. On some level, you actually want to do a little bit badly on the bosses because they'll actually hurt you and set up your health for the very last fight, which is kind of a weird push and pull to actually save time on this stage. But if you do take a little bit of extra damage, it's not too big of a deal because you can use health tonics to adjust your health if you're a little bit low for the Shovel Knight fight at the end here. So the bosses for the boss rush are pretty much all the same except for the fact that the arena is slightly different that you're fighting them in, so your positioning for some of the bosses is going to be a little bit weird sometimes. Oh, I think this was a really... yeah, that's a really good Propeller Knight fight. Oh, I actually lost time there. You actually don't want to be... You don't want to be overlapping with Treasure Knight if you actually fight him, because he'll actually like dash to the side before he comes down, which makes you lose time. I think ideally what you want to do there is actually be like right in front of him when he comes up so that you can burst and then use a bunch of Staff of Striking in his face. Oh, right there I tried to push Spectre in the corner, but he didn't really bounce back in the correct way that he should have. Spectre is a really... he's a really tough boss to sort of juggle around. He can do some weird rebounds sometimes that don't really seem like should be possible. Ooh, I ran out of magic here. You really don't want to run out of magic in Boss Rush. Luckily, I only had 2 bosses left there. I had Tinker and Mole. If I would have gotten Tinker, it would have been really, really bad, since magic on Tinker is pretty much a must to actually kill him quickly. But for Mole Knight, you can get by without any magic. And kill him pretty fast. So yeah, right here, just go up to him and slash him in the face, and kill him while he's down, face in the ground. As you saw at the beginning of the fight, all of the bosses in Boss Rush don't actually deal damage in like the first second and a half that they're on the screen and attacking you, which is kind of a weird thing. But it works out. So right here, the setup is you just stand in the corner and then just slash him here. So slash bomb, and then repeat until he's dead. Oh, we got out a little bit. Oh wow, I don't remember this. I don't remember messing up the boss like that. Oh well. That wasn't that bad. He didn't really get out of the corner, he just like hit me a couple times. Not too bad. But yeah, Shovel Knight can... He can pull off some hot counters. Like basically have perfect reactions and hit you sometimes. I was going up against a really ridiculous boss rush stage, I believe, on this run, so even though that was still like pretty decent, I still lost like a pretty good chunk of time there. I made it up in this last stage here though, which is pretty neat. So with Plague, you do actually have to fight 3 bosses at the end here. And you do have to fight yourself. You have to fight like a shadow version of yourself. Which is probably one of the most random bosses in this game. Although it's not really too bad if you can actually adjust to his patterns. For Enchantress, you have to damage her in a very measured pace, so that if you actually damage her like too fast, she will go below like really fast. But I actually did that in this run, which is actually faster than the standard strat, but it's a lot riskier. That was a really good kill. Usually she like switches to the left side before doing her like first vertical shadow ball attack. She goes to the left before doing that. But you can actually get more hits on the right, like faster. And then she like switches phases faster, but then she switches phases with like more health, which makes going at the bottom at the end very risky, because she has more health. Yeah, this Shadow Plague fight I remember not being so great. Like you can see, it's pretty much like the Shadow Plague fight, or the Plague fight from Shovel Knight. And it's even more random and difficult to adjust to in a sense than Shovel Knight has to adjust for Plague Knight, because you can actually destroy the blocks right beneath you, which is not great. Makes throwing bombs really hard to predict. So right here, this boss is pretty easy. This is kind of a joke, actually. And that's a speed run. So yeah, you just... I believe you can hit the bottom part of that boss with pretty much any item, I believe. Which is what I did there. Just hit the bottom part, then just killed him in two cycles. But yeah, that's the run. Hopefully you all enjoyed that.
Recording a sound test here.
Whoops. Alright, so yeah, that was the run. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. And I'll see you next time.